All right. So, Edlaine, we were going to do a LinkedIn Live, and unfortunately, we didn't get enough people participating. So, thank you for jumping on to the Zoom call. We might as well record what it is we wanted to share with our folks, and let's see if we can't, get this posted on other mediums and go from there.
100%. It's even better because I get to see you now.
Exactly. Exactly. So for those that are listening, if you don't know me already, I'm Tina Joseph, and I'm a leadership coach and business consultant who helps experts and entrepreneurs successfully transition into their new people leadership roles. So this is my co-host, Edlaine, who has been a great friend of mine and is also a wellness coach. And also getting into the life and leadership coaching space as well. And I will kind of turn it over to her to introduce herself to you.
Awesome, T. First of all, it's a super honor for me to be here with you because I not only admire you as a person, as my friend, but also the amazing work that you've been doing, in corporate and now with your business. So I'm a wellness and mindset coach. I've been trained in yoga and meditation as well, and I have a background and an approach to it using Ayurveda, which is an Eastern medicine type of medicine. And my passion is really to help people learn how to manage stress, lower the cortisol levels, and find that inner peace where you can use that to make better decisions, to be more productive, to be assertive. So in the past 2 years, I've been working with women suffering from anxiety and just helping them manage that and cope with it and find tools that they can access very quickly so they can continue to move on, with their careers, maybe career change, whatever they want to plan out and achieve in their lives. So that's my passion.
Yeah. And so we kind of have a natural fit because, I think in the leadership space, unfortunately, hand in hand with that comes a lot of stress because there's a lot of responsibility and accountability on the shoulders of leaders. And so I think we just dovetail really nicely. And I do have a background in nutrition as well. So I totally get, the idea that there is a lot we can do to help the physiological, sensations that manifest from stress. And once we can balance those systems using a whole bunch of, natural and holistic techniques, it ends up leading to like a better kind of healed, body, one that's more resilient to handling the day to day. So like, I think that's just, our practices dovetail really, really well. So we wanted to dive in with the audience today, and we had suggested a topic. So we are planning on going live every month in LinkedIn. So a good way to connect with us is on LinkedIn. And we wanted to go live today specifically to talk about, those 2023 goals that people have starting off as New Year's resolutions. And what we wanted to talk about today was, really the tips that we have and the tricks that we kind of help our clients with in terms of helping them achieve their own goals, their New Year's resolutions, so that they don't kind of fizzle out, before we even have a chance to kind of gain any traction on them, right? So, whether they be goals in your personal life or goals in your professional life, either way, we see that a lot of people end up being really, really strong at creating those goals, but then they quickly fizzle out if perhaps they don't get any traction, they don't see any benefits, or they find it a little bit more difficult or uncomfortable to keep that momentum going. And so what we wanted to do was kind of give you a look behind the scenes on how we guide our clients through making sure not only can they set, goals that they can actually achieve for that year, but also what they need to do to make sure that they stay on track with those goals and really keep that momentum going. So anything to add there, Edlaine, as a talking point?
Said it all. It's a very exciting topic, I find, especially in January, because at this point in the year, that's when people are probably already feeling frustrated for not having followed through with whatever goals they set for the year. So I think it's a great timing because it's not all, lost yet. You can still pick it up and continue to work on it.
Yeah. So share with me, like, Edlaine, for you, like, what has been your experience either with yourself or with your clients? Like, what do you see in this space as a challenge for people?
Right. So, well, if I think we're posting this, so I'd love to hear from people too, if they want to pop it in the chat whenever they watch the recording, because so in my own experience, so I grew up in Brazil, right? And making New Year's resolution is a big thing. So I remember at midnight, we would sit down with my mom and siblings, and we were all writing what we were gonna set the resolutions for the next year. And I remember I was basically a child, so I was kind of just copying what everybody else was doing, like, oh, losing weight or whatever. So eventually, as an adult in my early 20s, I moved to Toronto in Canada, and I started, practicing yoga and really getting into wellness more. And I remember that I was so passionate about it that I made New Year's resolution about meditation. And that's something that occurs with my clients too. They find something they get super passionate about healing, and then they think that overnight they're going to start implementing. So for me, it was like 2008 to
Right.
2009. I had made a resolution. I'm going to meditate 30 minutes every morning, every evening. I had never meditated before.
Okay.
So overnight, I had set that goal and it wasn't realistic, right? So I started trying and I was frustrated. And so to me, it only made sense that, okay, I'm not going to be doing this the way I want it to be. And I'm only going to end up frustrated. I don't even know how to meditate. So what I did was I went and found an instructor.
Mm.
I went to look for support and for help. So I had somebody there to help me not only stay on track and learn and actually gradually begin to implement it into my life. So that was the year I decided that, you know what, I'm going to create intentions for my life, regardless of the
Uh,
time of the year I'm in. And I'm just going to stick to the practices because they're good for me, not because it's a new year. And
mm.
I was even talking to my another colleague, she's a nutritionist, and we talk about how this idea of new year, new you every year can be toxic because people start to feel that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of, that's kind of the experience for me. And I think that's how I help my clients not to have this kind of drastic, all or nothing mindset where it causes frustration. And that's when, like you're saying, people will start just kind of phasing it out and they don't stick with it.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
love that. And actually, it's one of the things that I kind of like to do as well. Like, I kind of like to set it up into 90-day chunks. So even if, like, like,
Okay.
I'll tell you, like, my approach that I take to clients that are like, okay, I want to, you know, um, plan out my year. Again, it can be professional or it can be personal, but one
Mhm.
of the things, like, I kind of start with is, if you don't have any idea on what it is you should be focusing in on for the year, like if you're not inspired, but even if you are inspired, let's say you ended up watching something on like Gabby Bernstein has a morning routine that you loved and you wanted to follow it, or Oprah does something right now that's like you're loving what she's doing and you want to follow it. So sometimes you're inspired, right? But you can double check the intent of that inspiration, and whether or not that is a goal that is going to really uh, do what you want it to do to improve your life in some way, by looking at like that whole life wheel, right? There's this wheel, you can just Google it, where it talks about all the different aspects of your life, right? So it could be your health, it could be your wealth, it could be your relationships, it could be like social, it could be whatever, right? There's this whole wheel that gives you different segments of your life. And what you do is you just sit down and you give yourself a score in that area, right?
Love that. Yes.
So what ends up coming up is, like, really at the end of the day, as humans, I think it's easier for us when we have one focus. Um, that we kind of target, right? So pick out of those, pick the one that you want to focus in the most, and then take and start to plan from there, right?
Love
And
that.
I think that's a way to, hey, if something hit you like a weight loss goal, well, obviously that's gonna maybe fit into your health category. You're giving that a score that's saying, you know what, out of 10, I'm pretty low in this area. I've got it like under 5. And this is
Right.
an area I want to focus in on. And then you can kind of start to create that plan. And what I like to do is create a plan that's a 90-day chunk. And that's
Okay.
because you can adjust it. And I find that people can do activities for those 3 months, and you can break it down into realistic like goals. At end of month 1, I'm expecting that I would have developed a habit in one area that's
Yeah.
moving me towards that health goal, right? If it's professional, just going back to like what I work with leaders, is sometimes you're going to be doing, I like to bucket it, right, in terms of pillars. So you've got a pillar that's going to be you know, if you're thinking about business, you've got a service that you're offering, a customer or a segment that you're doing, that so you've got to have goals around that, right? You're going to have goals around your own team organization. I like to call that like the operational effectiveness stuff. Then you're going to have goals around your employee engagement and experience. And then you're going to have your own professional development goals. And so in those 4 buckets, you can basically come up with what you want to do in the first 90 days. So the first 30 days might just be coming up with the plan, right? So
Laying it out. Yeah.
a new manager might just go and get familiar with, hey, for that customer experience, what are the strategic things that are happening in the company that are around that customer experience? What should I get my team involved in? What do I need to know that's going to be impacting them? So that first phase can
It's more
just
like
be about
taking
discovery,
stock.
just
Okay.
discovery. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly.
I'm really curious though, as I'm hearing you talking, like, do you have any personal goal yourself, like for this year that you would want to share and kind of tell us how you're planning on implementing? Or I think it's fascinating everything that you already, told
Yeah.
us. So,
Yeah. So, one of my big goals is increasing my visibility and reach. And so that really was about growing, where I'm seen, maybe getting into some publications, doing more speaking engagements, that kind of a thing. Because I love this dynamic. I love um, teaching. I love talking. I love sharing ideas. And I feel that a lot of people benefit from some sound bites once in a while. So I really like that. So visibility and engagement was a high one. So that's an example where I sat down and I said to myself, okay, what can I realistically do in the 90-day chunk? And I had reached out to you earlier last year and said, hey, you know, here's what actually went on. And this is what I coach my clients on. Think about your obstacles. So there's something about, okay, I know I want to increase my engagement and visibility by X, right? And you can put a hard number to that. I want to go from 0 followers to whatever followers on whatever platforms you want. You want readership, you want whatever, put hard stats. But then think about what's going to get in your way from doing that. And so when I thought about what's going to get in my way, it's that if I feel bored by the activity, I'm not going to do it. So
oh,
I
wow. You know your
needed,
motivations. That's
I
amazing.
knew what was going to be in my way. And my way for me, it was that I needed dialogue. Like I needed some partnership, somebody that like you, who's a business bestie and a really good friend, like that can help me show up in the way that I want to show up. Right. And that was basically what we put in plan. And then you and I sat down and we said, all right, let's not over engineer it. Let's do one topic a month and let's plan that out. And then let's execute on that and go ahead. And even today, we knew that we went in LinkedIn, and unfortunately we didn't promote it as well as we should have. Good lesson learned. And we'll talk about
Yes.
that, right? Lesson learned and adjusting. But it was a way for us to show up, commit to showing up for each other, show up for our audience. Unfortunately, it was there. We still decided to come on here, record it. Somebody's going to get something out of this and we're going to go. So that's an example. So first of all, I think the big takeaway is just know what it is. If you don't know where to start, go to that wheel of life, pick a priority, one that has your lowest score, pick one, move the dial on that in 30 days. But, you know, in that we kind of talked about, and you talked about like getting a coach, right?
Yes.
And, or getting somebody, what's the difference, do you think, that is the difference between like doing it on your own and getting some level of like coaching and accountability? Like, talk to me about that.
Love that question because it's a life-changing. Like I think anyone who has ever worked with a coach, a mentor, someone to hold your hand, help you get from point A to B or whatever you want to be. Again, leave in the comments here if you ever worked with a coach. For me in particular was, first of all, I grew up with a mother who had always been a mentor. So I had this, I always valued coaching and mentorship because I thought, for example, for me, I've always worked in wealth management and finance, and and I had always my passion for wellness and for this industry. And it's scary, right, to change careers, especially when you're in your 30s. So I had always been kind of exploring very carefully, very leery about it, but never really fully committing. And I knew that I was sabotaging, you know, that life purpose, that goal, because I was scared. So I remember you were already, I believe you were already taking or maybe completed your life coach certification. And I was in that process. I had kind of cut down my hours. I had to step back a little bit from my hours at the office I was working at because, you know, we were hit with lockdowns and things like that. And I remember just thinking, you know what, I'm going to reach out to Tina and I'm going to ask her to guide me through a session here. And I remember in that session, you asked me all the right questions to make me realize and find the answers for myself. I remember I got so emotional in that session.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was just like, it's almost like it's breakthrough and insights, and it's just obviously not every session is the same way, but that gave me the base and the strength and the courage to, okay, I want to change careers, I want to step into wellness, I'm already certified as a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, how do I transform that into a business? So the next obvious step was for me to hire a business coach. Because like we were saying, the difference is you can go and try on your own and you can spin your wheels and spend 2 or double the amount of time you would if you had that mentor and that coach. So I remember just, you know, going into this basically accelerator program where they coached us on so many aspects of having your business. You're basically running the show on your own. And I had a time frame. So it was like within 6 months, they put me in that container. They helped me create my program, learn the technology, learn how to market, learn how to say, like do all of this. And it would have taken me probably 3 years if I had not given up halfway, just because you need the accountability.
Yeah.
Like you need to, especially with creating a program, like being
Yeah.
creative, it's very daunting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, it is.
yeah. And so I guess the aspect of not letting you procrastinate and help you stick with the plan. And I think that's the amazing like magic that happens when you see yourself accomplishing so much.
Yeah.
Because you have that support.
Yeah. And
right?
I think too, it's like when I think about coaching and accountability, accountability is one subset of coaching. Coaching is actually much broader. So to me, coaching is about One of the things it is that usually your coach will come with a proven framework. So they have a way of getting you from point A to point Z, or if you want to stop at M or wherever it is, then they can do that, right? But they understand what can get you there. But what a coach does, if they do it well, is it's like a Socratic method of helping you come up with your own path. So there's a toolkit that you can pull from that they can offer you. But also in coaching, which is different than a program, right? With coaching, we're going to work with you to say, what's kind of happening here for you? What is it you want to achieve? What would get in your way? If one thing was possible here, what would it be? What do you need to hold yourself accountable, right? And then it kind of goes into that, into that accountability piece. Is once you have the plan, now I can actually keep you accountable and on track to that plan. Or if you want to use like my framework, you can use my framework. And again, as you come up with different obstacles and different roadblocks along the way, which is going to happen, then you're going to have somebody that's going to help you work around that, right?
Yes.
And that's the difference. And I think when a lot of people, and I think about like specifically health goals, like if you're going to start like running, for example, you might get a running partner, and that running partner is going to help create some accountability, but they might not necessarily be your coach. Right. So
100%.
your running partner might definitely be like, yeah, I'm going to be here at 6 a.m. You better not leave me standing here alone. So you're going to show up for that 6 a.m. run. Right. But is that person the best person to get you to improve your personal best time, or to prepare for, a longer distance or faster distance or something else? Maybe, maybe not. Right. So
That's a
that's
perfect analogy. That's a perfect analogy. I love that. It's so true. Like you improve your physical strength or anything related to improving performance that or achieving your goals. That accountability buddy now, it most likely won't be the person to do that for you.
Right. They can be, but I don't know. Like, and then maybe that's why you pick a buddy that has already been there. So like, for example, maybe you're the beginner running and you want to do a 10K. So you're going to pick like somebody who's run a 10K to be your running buddy. And that's because you already get that you want to work with somebody who's been there before, or who knows the path you're about to go on, right? And that's a coach. That's a
Yes,
coach and an accountability partner all in one, all right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me, what's another roadblock that you see for people that have like their New Year's resolutions and maybe ditch them or something?
Right. So I guess I would start with something that I was, I blame myself for having, being like that all my life. And I think when we talk about being a perfectionist, so in the case of like for me, like building my business, when it came down to like creating content or creating the program, I always thought, oh my gosh, this has to be perfect. Otherwise, I'm not going to put it out there. And well, what I learned, one of the most important lessons I learned from my coaches was this idea of like imperfect actions, that you don't have to have anything. Of course, you're not going to put anything out there that it's like completely horrible and like illegible or anything like that. But if you put your heart into it, your time and love, and you really create something, you're always going to think that you need to make improvements, that you need to refine. So find the first iteration and then run with it and fix it along the way. Figure it out as you go, and don't be scared of ask for help and ask your coach or ask a friend or anybody for feedback and things like that. So it's a very humbling experience, but it's easier when you have a coach, because they will tell you how it is, but they will also be there for you to hold you when you have those days.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that imperfect action thing, because I think one of the other things is maybe like it's setting realistic results, like being realistic about results at what
What do you want
stage you're
to
at,
see?
right?
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think like, one of the things like when I'm coaching and let's say we're trying to modify a behavior, right? So maybe somebody's had feedback where, um, they were told, I'll give an example. There was somebody that was told that, that they show up as grumpy in meetings, right? And they're not as helpful, that they're actually kind of judgmental about people that are asking questions, and if things aren't moving
Kind
fast
of
enough,
resistant.
yeah, like so they're
Yeah.
the feedback is like you're kind of grumpy, you're not really showing up as a team player, like what's that about? And so we had to talk about, how do you modify that behavior? And the first step is just awareness, right? Do you actually see it, right? So you don't
Oh, yeah.
actually have to take action and see a result. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just be aware of when it shows up and be aware of what's triggering you, right? So I think like when you think about, you set a goal, what's a realistic result? Sometimes it might be just becoming aware of what's preventing you from doing something.
This is so powerful, Tina. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because we tend to go and stay just on that autopilot mode and you don't even know what. So intentionality and awareness. I
Mhm.
love these 2 points that you just brought up because it's so true.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's true. I didn't realize I was such a perfectionist until I started working and starting that business. And I was
Yeah.
like, why nothing is good enough for me?
Yeah.
And then I
And
submit it for review and I get an amazing feedback. I'm like, really?
yeah, and being okay with being uncomfortable. Like this is one thing that I've learned from when I was going through my life coaching certification. I got certified by the Life Coach School, and Brooke Castillo is the master coach there. And she talks about like setting these big audacious goals. So she's like, the bigger, the better. And she really talks about understanding that you're going to fail your way there. That you're not like people that hit it out of the park, or if it looks like people are knocking it out of the park on their first try, it's a lie. You're probably seeing them at the end of their journey. You're not seeing them in the in-between on their journey, right? And being able to sit with the discomfort of like not hitting your goal is as much of a win as reaching the goal itself. So when you realize like that you have a trigger that might be an emotional trigger, let's say we were talking about health, or even in this meeting situation, right? That, what is it that gets you grumpy, right?
Yes.
Once you know what that trigger is, now you can start to deal with it and you can start to adjust it. That is so much more powerful than just pretending for that person to show up with a fake smile on their face, because they're not going to be happy, right? It's not going to
No.
come across as authentic. And if anything, they're going to feel like they don't fit in, and it's going to further alienate them in that particular situation, right?
And it
So,
changes the energy, right? The environment, especially for like people like I'm totally like an empath, and I know you are too. So as soon as you notice that and you feel that energy, it's very hard to unsee it. And we just want to help and want to do something about it, right? To
yeah.
get that person to, okay, what can we do to make it easier for you or happier for you?
Yeah, no, exactly. So I love that imperfect action, and then being realistic about it, but understanding that sometimes it's just like really simple steps, just being aware,
It's
understand what's
true.
happening, build a little habit, break it down, and keep them in realistic chunks, right?
And I'm thinking here too, now that you're saying that, well, one of the main things that is really sticking with me is this idea of identifying the roadblocks before they show up. It's just like going in knowing that they're going to be there instead of being in denial. It's just like people that don't want to handle or deal with their finances because they don't know what's going to show up on their statement. So I might as well not even look at it. that kind of, so this takes away this anxiety about, what if, it's not what if, it is going to happen, right? And it makes me wonder if like procrastination also comes from this fear of what if something goes wrong, instead of acknowledging that something's going to go wrong and how to deal with it proactively.
Yeah, so good, so good. And an example of that came up with somebody I was coaching. And when you're it comes back to like when you're setting up that goal. And we talked about, if you don't know where to start, you could start with that whole wheel of life and pick an area, right? But also, like, you have to visualize and really understand why that result or that goal is important to you. What is it giving you? Who is that person once they've achieved that thing? And why does it matter? But also, like, knowing what's getting in your way is like, for in this example, the person was wanting to prepare themselves for some public speaking engagements they need to do. And we talked about all the things, and she's like, I could probably take a course, I could probably do this, I could probably do that. And I said, well, what is it about public speaking that makes you uncomfortable? Or you say nervous. And it came out that she's like, I don't want to be judged. And that's just so interesting, because that's the root of it, right? That's what you're afraid of. And we kind of stepped back and said, what happens if you are judged?
Yes.
Right? Because like, and she offered up, I actually judge people anyways. And I said, and what happens to them? Nothing, right? You're not sitting there going, like, you're just listening, and you either accept the information or you don't. Like, the world goes on, right?
And humans, we are so compassionate. When we see somebody bombing on a stage or something, we tend to be compassionate and feel like, oh my God, we are not going to make it worse for the person.
Yeah. So it's like, it's about like understanding, again, going back to like, what's the trigger? What's the worst? Like, what's happening here? And being realistic and not making it this big insurmountable thing. Like, just ask yourself the question, so what? What's going to happen if I look at my finances and I see a big red negative number? So what? What is that you now know? That's
You
all
have the information, right?
just a number. Your thoughts around it are a whole other story. We can work on that, but it's just a number at the end of the day. What you make it mean is the whole other thing, right?
So true. And it becomes so huge, right? Like that fear of getting on the stage or anything, it becomes way, way larger than what it is. And that's when obviously anxiety kicks in, and we know how it goes, right?
Exactly, exactly. So any other tips or tricks that you think you'd like to offer up?
So from my point of view, when we talk about, like helping leaders, especially what you're doing with, CEOs and startups and helping people start, because think of the opportunity of starting something from scratch and doing it the best way as possible, right? So my approach is always to look at the person first and really help them or inspire or impart to the people to prioritize self-care. And make it in a way that it's your own personal journey. Like, stop comparing your routine to other people's. I know we all look up to people. We look up to, entrepreneurs who are doing amazing, regardless of your area, your business, your career. We always look up to people, and oftentimes we look at them like, I wish I had, the energy to wake up at 5 a.m. to go for a run, but maybe that's not who you are. So I often say to my clients, look for inspiration, because obviously people are doing amazing things out there. You can have like the most quote unquote perfect routine that includes the meditation and the juicing and the whatever you think works for you. But at the end of the day, creating a routine that will nourish your body and your mind in order for you to show up as your best, not only for your company, but for your staff and your team, and look after everybody else, and lead by the example, being the example. is to find and design a routine that works within your actual life. Like
Yeah.
not trying to like establishing realistic, again, just with goals, just like Tina was saying. If you know you have to take your children to school at 8 a.m. and you're going to be rushing between 7 and 8, like why are you going to fit in a bunch of stuff that is only going to increase your cortisol levels, your stress levels? So I always recommend to pick a few things. Let's say you look up to, I don't know, I would just throw some names there that people like, but maybe it's Bezos, maybe it's Oprah, maybe it's Deepak Chopra, whoever it is. Find maybe a couple practice that you think that it's very admirable that they do, and then try it out, maybe for 2 weeks. Maybe if it's meditation, try for 5 minutes every morning, see how you feel. Does that fit within your schedule? If not, try in the evening. Like test it out. It's always a test until you design and find something that works for you and helps you keep that state of mind and mindset that will contribute to the business, contribute to, you know, the performance of your team and not add on to the stress. Does that
Yeah,
make
and
sense?
it does. And I think the thing I picked up with what you were saying is not judging yourself
Yes.
for what's happening. Like, I think that's a big thing, right? Like, so it's not
Exactly. Yes.
comparing yourself to others when that's kind of happening, that it looks so easy for them to get up at. And listen, I'm guilty of it too. I'm scrolling through TikTok and I'm looking at these really beautiful, energetic,
Yeah.
whatever people, and I'm just like, wow, like you should see me at 5 a.m. It's not pretty. Like, it's not pretty at all.
And we
So
all do it, right?
yeah, so I get it. Like, don't judge yourself and be kind to yourself as
Thank
you're
you.
trying to develop a new behavior or implement some new routines, and you're trying things out. To me, it's kind of like helping that inner child. Like, whenever you are in that place where you feel a little judgmental, comparison syndrome, whatever it is, like think about if you had a little kid, and they were going through something, they're learning to tie their shoes, for example. Like, it's going to be challenging for them in the beginning, but you're going to show them fun ways to kind of do it and learn it. And then, when they put the shoes on the wrong feet, you're going to laugh with them, all the kind of things, right? But you're gentle with them. They're learning something
Such a
new,
beautiful example.
and you're gonna be coaching and guiding and be empathetic with them. And so I think you just have to treat yourself like as a child, and give
It's
yourself
so
grace.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because oftentimes when we talk about like trauma bonding and things like that, some perhaps, as a child, we were judged, or our parents or caregivers had high expectations from us, and it didn't have this kind of compassion that we have to allow ourselves to be gracious and do that for ourselves, right? Because like, especially like I think of you working with like leaders and like CEOs, building a business and changing and doing so much. We stay in this kind of type A, like go getter. We have to be always ready to go and strong. So you are the only person who can actually have that awareness, like we were just saying, and know the intention behind it, like why you want to create this business, why you want to be so successful. And then you're going to be able to prioritize your health, because you want to do it for the long haul, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
What
it's
about
good.
you, T? What would you say from your point of view, like from your perspective in terms of sticking to for the people here that are identifying themselves as quitters at the end of January with their goals.
Yeah. No,
What
I
would
think
you?
we definitely shared a lot. And I think if there is one thing that I would like to, have drive home, it would probably be to don't give up. If you set something up for yourself, it may be a good opportunity to reevaluate it, and maybe just say, all right, what did I do that worked well for me this month? And what kind of didn't work well for me this month? And take what didn't work well and, kind of think through what's my plan to deal with that in the next month. And for the things that did work well, how can I continue to make sure that gets incorporated? Right? Because like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, it's just like, don't give up. It's too soon. You haven't done enough with it. So just take it, hold on to it, and just rework it a little bit. That's all it's going to take. And then, at the end of the 90 days, I think it's then a good time for you to say, all right, did I make enough progress on this goal that maybe now I can focus on something else? Or do I want to take that one to the next level in some way? Right. So that's when you do the fundamental change. But in the first 90 days, just stick with it. And just like at the end of the month, just ask yourself that question: what worked well? What didn't work well? What can I take into the next one? I think that would be probably a big thing to take away.
That's such a practical advice that is so much easier to, I think it probably gives people also this kind of like I can relax my shoulders down because I don't have to stick with this. Like it's an ever changing process, right? That you should be the one at, like you said, investigating, analyzing, sticking to the things that are working, modifying what's not working. I think it's and that's why, again, New Year's resolutions versus intentions and goals and having the roadmap and having a coach and having all that. Instead of just winging, I feel that a lot of us, when we're in this kind of mindset, we're just winging things, thinking that magically is going to work
Exactly.
out.
And you know what? Just hearing you kind of say it and having it come out of my own mouth, it is really the difference between growth and fixed mindset, right?
Yes.
If you want to adopt a growth mindset, if you really want to understand what a growth mindset is, it's what we were just talking about for the last half an hour, 40 minutes, right? It's about just keep moving, keep adjusting. In that period, there is growth. Fixed mindset is one where it's like, I'm going to try something that's not working. I'm ditching it. I'm moving on, right? Like that's the big difference. And I think that's, the big thing to take away from here. So when we're thinking about those goals. So I want to wrap us up, Edlaine.
Yes.
Tell the audience, tell our groups here, what's one big takeaway from you, and let them know where they can find you.
Awesome. So the biggest takeaway for me, because it's amazing how we can always hear the same thing, but we can absorb and process it in different ways. So today will really stuck with me, T, and I think this is going to be very helpful for everyone, is this idea of acknowledging the elephant in the room. Like, be aware, like list out what the potential roadblocks is going to be, no matter what your goal is. It's health, business, and be prepared, have some plans around it for when it happens. So love that, how you emphasize it in the strategies that you give around that. And you can all find me on LinkedIn under Edlaine Heidman, Wellness and Mindset Coach. And I've been partnering with Tina on her projects as well. So if you do ever work with Tina, you're probably going to see me around there to be, focusing more on the wellness and stress management aspects. So yeah, I look forward to really getting to know more people and continue this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the big thing that I took away from you, Edlaine, was that whole imperfect action and being authentic, like, that whole piece of like not judging and really making the experience authentic. And I love that because it dovetails so well with like what I teach from a leadership perspective about like creating an authentic leadership brand and style that's about playing off of your strengths. Because that then is just going to set you apart, and it's going to be so easy for you to follow through on. And when you're authentic, it's easier to understand what's getting in your way. It's easier for people to relate and want to follow you as a leader, for sure, right? So I think that's one thing that I would say as well. So we are always looking for people that are in who are either business owners or people leaders who really want to elevate their team's performance with leadership training and coaching. We are here and we're looking to partner with you to help move you along either in your New Year resolutions or in a particular area in your career. So you can find me at tinajoseph.com is probably the easiest. And you can also find me on Instagram at the Tina Joseph. DM, connect with us. And if you are looking for support specifically, we will hook you up with a call so we can explore what those next steps look like. So thank you again, Edlaine, for keeping me focused, making this fun and enjoyable. We'll see you next month for sure.
Thank you so much. It's always an honor to me to spend time and, have this kind of dynamic with you.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Talk soon.